Dober večer, hvala, da ste prišli poslušati pogovor po predstavi. Moje ime je Zala in bom vodila pogovor z igralcem Ahmedom Tobasijem in režiserko Zoe
Tobasi. The whole play is about me.
In režiserko Zoe Lafferty. So for the beginning, thank you for the performance, very powerful, very eclectic, and I think that all of us are very interested in what you are going to tell us about the background and everything. So as we can read about you that you are activist, prisoner, ex-prisoner, and refugee also, yes. And I would just like to ask you at the beginning, is it true that you decided to be an actor in a prison, as we heard?
You know, in theater we should put some mayonnaise, ketchup, salad, you know, to make it more. But no, I am from the childhood, like I'm involved with, you know, you know, like summer camps, theater, whatever. But you know, when the second intifada start, the whole atmosphere, like you don't talk about, you notice there is a choice or not. The whole atmosphere, the whole area, everybody, every people start to prepare for war. And especially for me in that time and my generation, in that time, we didn't live like the first intifada for us, we were very little. So we lived the curfews, the soldiers, all these things, but we not grow up on it. So in a way, we didn't know exactly what's mean really war as a war. And you know, slowly when start the clashes and the intifada start to develop from stones to guns to bombs, everybody is involved in some way in the intifada. Like this is how you are Palestinian. You cannot be away from what is going on in the fact. So you already find yourself involved in some way with the intifada, and you forget there is theater or art or something. Now it's intifada. That's what you exist. That's what you do each day. But for sure, when the wars happened and the invasion happened, and when I went to prison and start to have some time. And like, you know, you spend a lot of time inside the prison thinking what you're doing, what you're gonna do. And especially, you know, when the people some people leave the prison, you want to make people really having some fun. I lived this situation where I see some friends, they lose their minds, they lose their eyes, they became sick. They go to really very hard hospitals because they're really almost between life. Because the condition of the prison, it's very hard. It's not just by the Israeli side. It's even with the Palestinian side. Because there is politics, there is rules, there is way. You cannot do this, you can't do that. And there is power, there is control. So it's very hard from every direction. And what I remember in that time, like, oh, I can't do theater, I can't do sketches, I can't make these people have fun. We should have fun. Then when I tried one time, it became like, yeah, each party calling me like, come, we have somebody going home. So, you know, I have to bring the garbage bins and like, you know, make a drum and make sketches and whatever. And really the story, it happened when some guy filmed some sketch I was doing to famous characters in TV. And he really gave his fiancée the SIM card, and it was from Gaza. So in Gaza, they made it in CD to send it back into prison, to send it to West Bank, because there is no way to connect between West Bank and Gaza, especially in that time. So they sent the CD into prison by, you know, in hidden way, but the soldiers catch the CD. And the warden watched it, he got shocked, like, is this in my prison? There is cameras, videos, CDs, what's going on inside, you know? So in the night, hundreds of soldiers, we were almost 2,000 in this prison. It's like an open air prison, but you know, it's chic from like wire from everywhere and tents in the desert. And they start bringing buses like to control us, because you know, if they keep us, if they take one section, we can throw some stuff to other section. So it became like a game. So they come here, we throw it there. They go there, they throw it here. So to control this movement, they brought buses. They took all the prisoners in the buses so they can check both sides in easy way to find these phones or whatever, computers, but you know, it was just the phones. And I was sitting in the small world with my bag, and nobody knows what is going on. So the guy who mediates between the Israeli and the prisoners, he came, he said like, they found the CD with the songs and video clips, and they're looking for a guy who painted himself with a big mustache, and they think they're gonna find him. And I'm sitting there like, fuck, they catch me, I'm gonna be behind the sun, you know. And then no, they don't catch me because I was wearing a lot of stuff, whatever, and the video was not really good in that time as a filming. And I really shocked, like, it's not because of the sketch, but the sketch was a big reason to make all this drama. Mm-hmm. And I said like, wait a bit, I didn't realize this in one day or in one moment. But you know, from that moment, when I went out, still my friends having guns and they are in armed resistance, and when I went out, they are like, we'll come back. I didn't feel it. I don't want to come back to this. I felt the sketch effect more than will come back of the gun. So I didn't really go back with them, and I tried to hold myself back as much as I can. And for sure, all of them died. And I said, exactly, the point is not to die. The point is to stay alive as long as you can and tell your stories all over the world and with all people to tell them what is real story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we saw the story of your life, but this was a dramatization. Written by Hassan Abdulrazak. And can you tell us more about your collaboration with him?
Yeah, so me and Tobasi, we made a different play, and it was a big team of many people, and we toured it around Britain and Palestine, and we took it to America, but it's really expensive production. So we were thinking, how can we make something much more easy to tour, because it's already a huge risk for people to tour Palestinian work. In Britain, we got accused of promoting terrorism, we had protests, we had to get lawyers, and also we had a good success with the show. In America, they banned it twice, and then eventually we were allowed to bring it. So when the show is a very expensive show, it's a risk both politically and financially. So we're like, okay, we're never gonna take away the political risk, but we can try and take away the financial risk. Also, visas are very complicated, just many things. So me and Tobasi, we really sat and we like brainstormed into the night, what are we going to make a show about? Also, small other part is when we made the other show, Tobasi kept saying to me, wouldn't it be fantastic if I was the only actor on stage? So he was also like persuading in this way. Anyway, we looked like Mahmoud Darwish, Ghassan Kanafani, like all the famous literature and poets and blah blah blah. And eventually I was like, Tobasi, why are we trying to like find these big literature heroes? To be honest, let's be realistic with ourselves. We're not so fancy. And your life story, it holds everything we want to talk about. From a refugee in Palestine to a refugee in Europe to armed resistance, cultural resistance. It's the history of the theatre we work in, the Freedom Theatre, and Giuliano, who is both of our colleague and mentor and teacher and all of these things. So I was like, why don't we just use your story? Or not use it, work with it. He trusted me, which was a big mistake. So then, but it was very tricky because actually, obviously it's Tobasi's life, I know him very well, and how do you have a perspective when you're so close to the person and when the person is yourself? And I know this writer, he's called Hassan Abdulrazak. He makes really funny political work. He's born in Iraq, so he left Iraq when he was 14, so he also understands the culture, he understands the politics, He speaks Arabic, obviously, which is very important. And then at the same time, he understands the Western audience. So he could play both games in a way. So we encouraged him to come along, and then he came to Palestine, and we took him around and we shocked him in as many ways possible. And then he went back to Britain, and that was, he began to write the play.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you maybe tell us more about this, your company developing artists? You're working with minorities and also refugees and
So yes and no. Developing artists is really working with people who have interesting stories to tell that we might not be hearing in Britain, or so I worked with them. It's not my company specifically. I worked with them on another project, and so we thought they would be a fantastic producing partner. At the same time, it was commissioned by the Shoeback Festival in London. We collaborate a lot with the Freedom Theatre, and then just anyone who wants us. Yeah.
So I read in one of your interviews that you made a performance called The Siege before this, and that was one of the starting point also. Like after that performance, you kind of decided to do this one, and maybe can you tell more about the previous one?
Yeah, the Siege, it was about the same period in a way, like the invasion in 2002, but talks about the other city, which is Beit Lahem, and talks about the Nativity Church, when the Israeli sieged some fighters and some families and civilians and even monks
And
nuns inside the Nativity Church. And they sieged him for 39 days without food, water, electricity. Anyone moves, shot to death. And the whole world was busy about, don't destroy the stones of the church. It's very old, it's very holy. But there is 300 people inside dying, shooting, no food, children, women, nobody talked about them. And this talking about like who's gonna surrender, not surrender, we want some names inside. In the end, they made a deal that the 12 or 12 wanted people, they should exile to Europe, different countries, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Italy, Spain, and the other 20, they will send them to Gaza. And then they made the deal and take the people outside. But the thing is, in Palestine we have thousands of stories each day. So even the Palestinians don't know or not aware what is really going on, because it's too much stories all the time, and we think, and that's another problem, our life is normal. Like we think it's normal life to have occupation, and the Israeli army comes, kills somebody, because it became daily life, so it became part of our life. And the Palestinians start to have it normal, like yes, there is invasion, there is people die, martyrs, whatever. And this was a message not just for the international people, it was a message for the Palestinians themselves. And we tell them like, hey, wake up, stop. This is not normal. We should do something. We should say no. This is not normal life, and this is not the life the people who lived in all over the world. So, because even about the invasion, which was before 15 years, even young people don't know what happened in the invasions. Like the people who are 15 years old now don't know what's been invasion and what happened in invasion and all these stories. So we decide, like Zoe met another guy, our friend, they met this kind of people, they made the interviews, they took the real stories, and we went back after 12 years of the action, who nobody knows who made the deal, who signed the deal, who's following the deal, nobody. So these people went out, nobody knows when they're gonna come back, they cannot work, they cannot travel, they cannot do anything, and nobody knows who's gonna open this case. So for sure, as a Freedom Theatre also, working in this way, we try to bring these kind of stories and open questions and challenge people. So we made this, The Siege, based in a true interview stories. And for sure we toured a small tour in West Bank, but was even the Palestinians shocked by the stories and by the facts was happening in the siege, even from the Palestinian side, because we, as a guy who individual and working with the Freedom Theater, we have the responsibility to talk about cases and the questions that nobody can ask, or very political, especially from the Palestinian side. And we're not fighting just the Israeli occupation. We're fighting all kind of occupations that can make people stupid, not caring, don't care, or run away from their responsibility. So even the Palestinian Authority, it have a big role in what is going on as a security collaboration, as where we are now as a Palestinian case. Palestinian Authority have a big case with that. The culture, the people, the kids, the students, the teachers in the schools. We try. I'm not saying we do each day, but we try to keep this fact and this way. This path is our path to challenge all the levels and all the sides in our community and our people. Yeah.
But what is the situation with the censorship in Palestine, like on artistic base? Like, are they very strict, or how do they control art or theater?
For sure. I mean, that's another big problem now. Like the theaters and the organization in Palestine, most of them is NGOs. It's funded by NGOs in Europe, UN. No, all this is tough. So we made the big mistake from 70 years, because we accept, as a Palestinian refugee from the war, we accept the tent from UN and we accept the little food from UN. And slowly, they give us food first, and then they brought us the tent. We live in the tent. Then they brought us a tank of water. So it's more nice. Then they bought us a mattress to sleep on. Then it became a home. Then this refugee camp became our life, and we left our land without we doing anything, just waiting the UN and the European Union and America to find solution for us from 70 years. And we're gonna keep having these problems because we're accepting money. I mean, it's a fact. So we're accepting money, we accept support, we do our theater from other people's money, we do our culture, whatever, from other people's money, which is, it's like how we say it, a nail that makes you wait and wait, because there's some, if we refuse the food and the tent from 70 years, we will not be in this situation now. And that's what is going on with even Palestinian Authority. They make all this collaboration with Israeli security, whatever, to control, to have a Palestinian country, whatever. It's just bullshit. We will never get a Palestinian country, because they know it's not. This is the plan. The plan to have big Israel, but it's just about time to make Palestinian more less as a number in the demographic way. So they control, they take all the land. It's just about time. So 70 years, there is no solution, and I don't think in the 30 years going to be any solution in this way.
I want to add also about censorship. I think certainly, like as a British person, I'm always like, I find people in Britain are very obsessed with this idea of censorship in Palestine. And of course, in the Freedom Theatre, in many different ways, they experience censorship. But actually, it is in Britain that the work got accused of promoting terrorism, and we had to have 9 lawyers to allow us to tell that story. A play. In America, it got banned twice. Even to come here, Zoran, poor guy, is breaking his mind, having to get letters and documents to try and get the visa for our technician. And of course, the system is the same in Britain. It's hugely difficult to get visas for people to come. So there's all of these systems of censorship that we have in our countries that I don't really even realize, or I don't even think are censorship, but they are a way to stop certain narratives being heard and to suggest that those narratives are violent and dangerous. And I always have to remind myself, like, it's just a play. Like, it's just a piece of theatre. It's not so awful. Well, I don't know. That's a different question. But as you know, it's not such a violent thing to do.
Yeah. It's even like to pass these borders, because in Palestine, to leave Palestine, you have to pass 3 borders: Palestinian, Israeli, and Jordanian. So if you have any problem with any one of them, or one of your family have a problem with one of them, you can't travel. And if they really catch something that you're really doing something, they don't care about you're an artist or not. You just deny. You can't leave. Done. And that's, you always try to find a way how to cheat this kind of way to because my point is, when I left Palestine for the first time, I want to move. If I can't move, I can't go around tell my story. If I cannot tell my story, then no one know about me. So all the point to go to Norway and get the Norwegian passport is just to make me able to move and tell my story. So it's a lot of challenges.
I want to add, now you've got us started, I'm so sorry. Also, not to compare in any way, like, my situation with the situation of someone in Palestine in any way, but also the system works in the opposite, in the sense that if you're a foreigner, it's hard to get into the West Bank. So internationals also to collaborate with Palestinians and to make art together, it's a really complicated system. There's no visa, there's no way of being allowed in or out. You just have to rely on the Israelis letting you in. So after many, many years of collaboration, each time it's getting tougher and tougher and tougher. And for sure, many internationals have been banned from entering because they make culture. So again, it's like this idea that culture is so awful somehow.
And now even the fund or the people give you money, like the big organization or associations, they make you, some of them, you have to sign a paper that says you not support terrorists, you will not talk about martyrs, you will not talk about homeland, you will not talk about specific political stuff, then you can get money. So all of it's just make it more hard to not do anything that connect to the case.
How did you question or cope with the question of representation of war on stage? We hear one interesting sentences, like your colleague says, "I saw it in a movie." Yeah. How to shoot, and we are kind of really occupied by hegemony of the mass media. And how did you try to avoid that, or give us alternative view of war?
I think it's quite interesting because with Hassan, who is was the writer, he, the first version of it, he really made, how to say it nicely, like he kind of made Tobasi quite soft in a way, and not talking about suicide bombing or guns or these types of topics. And we were sort of like, Hassan, you know, this isn't the reality. And he's like, yes, but if you put this on stage, people are going to potentially judge Tobasi or judge Palestinians. And we were like, no, the context is violent. The reaction is a normal reaction in that violent context. And this is something that needs to be discussed, because especially in Britain, where Palestinians are either terrorists or they're victims. Like, it's one opposite end of the spectrum. But the reality is that, you know, the situation is complex, and this is the reality that a 17-year-old feels he has no chance for survival but to hold a gun. And if we can't understand that as a West, then we are failing to be able to put ourselves in that situation, and especially like Britain, with the most violent country in the world. Yeah.
And this is another, not problem, but if you born in Slovenia, in a small village, for sure you're gonna, I don't know, go jogging in the morning, drinking beer, I don't know what, have a Christmas, all the family come, I don't know if they like each other or not, but you know, they have to get drunk and have party, I don't know, all of this. In Palestine, it's not possible to not be part of political party. If you go to Brazil, you're gonna have 6 bags and dancing salsa on the beach. If you go, I don't know, to the Norway, you have to ski and be Viking and jump in the snow. And this is the reality.
No stereotypes there at all.
No. But this is the reality. Like in Palestine, why you expect me to be an peaceful guy? Why you expect me to be an engineer and doctor, understand the Arabian and Aisha should be not violence? We don't know what's different between violence or peace or whatever. So that's the point. Why people expect us to be whatever to be? This is the reality. This is where we live. This is what in daily life happening. For example, in Benin camp. So yeah, this is you see.
Yeah. Could you draw a line where as a theater as a tool of therapy and as a tool of political statement for you? Or it's I suppose it's very mixed and complex.
I can answer, and if you don't like it, then you can correct me. No, I think again going back
the director will answer.
The British will occupy the Palestinians
Again.
No, I think it's a real obsession often, and I speak as a British person here, that we want people in Palestine to do drama therapy, and I think that's fine, but also why can people not in Palestine just make art without it having to be therapy? And I think they're two very, very different things. Like theatre in a hopefully professional level is about taking a narrative to an audience. Drama therapy is about, should be, and often it's not and it's quite abused, but it should be about a private and safe space where you are looking after your own emotional self. And so, for example, with this production, and I've worked in a few which are quite similar, working with people telling their own narratives, we need to be really clear with ourselves. This is not a safe space. This is Tobasi talking to an audience who are here to judge, hopefully, maybe, to listen, to write a review. It is not a safe space for him to look after himself emotionally. And as soon as those lines get blurry, I failed my job as a director. Maybe not so much in this play, but in another production I did, I worked actually very hard to take a lot of the stories out of it because I felt that it would not be safe for those people to go on stage and in that case talk to 1,000 people about those types of narratives. So yeah, it's a mixture of things, and I think often people come certainly to the Freedom Theatre from, I don't know, Britain and America and stuff, and they're like, oh, we're here to like help with drama therapy. It's like, why? Why can you not go to a theatre in Palestine and just see it as a professional theatre and it not be a form of help or, I don't know, like white saviour or I don't know what. And the reality of this work is it gets a very violent reaction. It's not safe at all. It's actually very dangerous.
And you know, one journalist can write a review and he can really destroy your life. Especially now, if you write anything in the internet, you never know what comes up to you. And sometimes there is journalists you never know or you don't know who they are, and they could write whatever they want, and people just check you and read about you, and you don't even know what have been written about you. And it's very easy to be judged, and people judge you in whatever you show. Even some people ask me, is it you, Tobasi? And which is makes, okay, this is good, because people really don't know if this me as Tobasi who doing the play, or it's a story I'm doing it as an actor, which is good. But yeah, it's really very dangerous, especially when you do this kind of plays. It's talk about Palestine, Israel, Muslims, things you believe in, religion, where you are, it's about everything, and it's people can just take it as a judgment. But I want to say, after I read my story, after like 32 years of my life, and when I'm reading, and
More than that.
30, 40, 73. When I read the first draft, I was really confused. Like, this is my life? I have never, like maybe all Palestinians, we have never looked back and said like, is this what's going with us? It is really normal? And for the first time I noticed it's not normal. we really need the drama, whatever, therapy, whatever. We need therapy. We need doctors because we don't consider this thing. Like 17 years old, being in a war and seeing people die, brains, shots, what all this thing, your life tough, whatever. And when you go to Norway or Europe, you find a teen, like 18 years old boy, still calling him boy. And like, well, there is something wrong. And then I told my director I would love to go to a doctor because I really want to understand.
The guy told you needed to go to a doctor.
Yeah, whatever. Because it's really, I mean, I don't know if I'm sick or not, but it's really how you can notice you have some problems or not. Maybe the situation we live makes us be strong and never complain, or I never take a fact that we sometimes cannot show our emotion. Whatever happens is inside, and we have to stand. The proudness of the fighters, the freedom, Palestine war. It takes a lot of nice, soft, good things inside us that we don't notice that we do that. And even it's not affect us against the Israeli. I'm not talking about Israeli. It's affect us against us as a Palestinians. We are very hard on each other. If you talk about Hamas, Fatah, Palestinian inside, outside, all these things, we are very hard on each other because, yeah, we don't notice. There is a lot of things that we hide and we cannot show. Yeah. Don't cry. It's okay.
No. I have one question. I hope it's not too personal for you. And
no, ask personal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Can you tell us about like if it's true? I read a lot of times that like leaving your own siege place or city and go somewhere else can it can be very painful, and there is enormous guilt that can appear. And how do you struggle with this? And this guilt can be more painful than the fear you're having in the war.
Okay, to be honest, when I arrived to Norway and I got my Norwegian passport, I didn't care at all. Not guilty at all. Partying each weekend, even in the middle of weekend, each night, drinking, partying, enjoying, traveling. It's like, woohoo, I born in you. And I mean, the thing is, I didn't feel guilty because even as a Palestinian, spend my life in time, not my life, some time inside the prison. I went out of the prison, no one gave me a job, no one went to work with me, no one helped me. Even I was wanted for the Palestinian Authority, I don't know why, and nobody can deal with me. I hide almost 1 month and a half, 1 month inside my room, nobody knows about me. Because of what? Because I was in a prison. Israeli prison. And I'm not talking about the Israeli, I'm talking about the Palestinians Authority. I was like took aside because I did something for Palestine, which is, you see what I mean, how they make sometimes I need to be honest with myself. The problem, we have big problems as Palestinians because we are not honest with ourselves, we are not one, we are not strong together. And I promise you, if we are one as a Palestinians, tomorrow Palestine is free. Tomorrow, I promise you. But this is the game. We are not one. So when I went to Norway, I'm talking about like someone was in a box and he saw all this world for the first time. I'm sure maybe in other cases it would take more time to realize you are in different world. But when I came back to the Freedom Theater and I did a play for children, something clicked again. It's like, what the hell I'm doing in Norway? These kids need theater. This place need theater. This place need my energy. I will not spend my life and my energy in Norway where they have a lot of money, they have actors, they have theaters, they don't need me. This place need me, these children need me. Then I went back to Norway 3 months. I couldn't sleep. I was like, why am I spending my time? So then I decide to go back. And then this is the first and the only time I decide for myself, or I choose what I want, is to go back and be in Palestine.
Okay. Any questions in the audience? Kakšno vprašanje za občinstvo?
I would like to make a comment. I'm always when I do talkbacks and people say comment, it's like ask me a question. But like I was extremely moved and touched, and I'm actually super proud of us that you are here, really. And what I think was what was really good in the show, you know, it's really tough. You're a Palestinian, blah blah blah, and it's a tough story and everything.
Blah, blah, blah.
But before I came to the show, I asked myself, okay, but how will my taste, you know, how will I watch this? Will the theater, the form, be good? Will I find it good? And what I found was what was for me so I really cried. I never cried.
What?
No, I cried after the show. I went to the office.
What about when you do the princess story?
This is like I was thinking about the princess story. It's like what will I do now? And I think what was really good for me was the speed, you know, that you tell and your friend died and you just move on, and another friend dies and you move on, and then Giuliano dies and the story just continues, you know, because life is like this, it just goes on, you know, and you cannot, it doesn't stop. There is no dramatic pause, there is no room for me to have a sad feeling, you know, because life goes on. And this is what I think is also good in a very you know, theatrical way about this show. And this is what I'm again really proud. I'm really proud we have them here.
Zoran raised to another 4,000 euros so we can.
And I think this was really good. I was afraid of the cultural difference in form, and this continuation that goes on with you being so lively, with the show being also funny at times, which is, I think I like it when something is funny, you know. And I appreciate the decisions, the artistic decisions you made, because I don't want this show to be that the content takes over, you know, because you are from Palestine and you have this really sad story. I have to like the show.
Oh no, yeah.
And I was really afraid of that, and I'm so I liked it.
Oh, thank you. We like your comment. You can make another one.
Sorry, no questions.
No, it's okay. I mean, all of us, we need some beer to drink now. Take off record. But yeah.